The stars were quiet, but the silence felt heavy. Long ago, those stars had looked warm and full of promise. Now they watched over a broken people moving through the dark. The Battlestar Galactica flew at the front of the fleet. It was old, scarred, and tired, but it was still alive. Behind it followed a line of civilian ships. Some were large, some very small. None of them were built for war. They carried the last humans left alive. Humanity had not expected the attack. The silence came fast and without warning. Cities burned. Ships fell from the sky. Communication died in seconds. In a single day, human space was turned into ruins. Those who escaped did so by luck, not by plan. Commander John Adams stood on the Galactica's bridge and looked at the main screen. Dots of light marked the fleet. Every dot was a ship filled with people who had lost everything. Families, workers, children, elders. All of them depended on one warship that was never meant to protect an entire species. John Adams was not a man who wanted glory. He had joined the fleet because he believed in duty. Now duty felt heavy in his chest. Every order he gave could save lives or end them. There was no room for pride, only careful choice. Fleet status? He asked. An officer checked the board. All ships still with us, sir. Fuel is low on 3 transports. Food reserves are tight across the fleet. John nodded slowly. Bad news had become normal. If a report ended without deaths, it was a good day. Maintain course, he said. Slow burn. We stay together. The Galactica moved forward, its engine steady but strained. Its hull showed old marks from past wars and new scars from the silent attack. Crews worked day and night to keep systems alive. There were no spare parts left. Broken things were fixed with hope and skill. Below the bridge, people lived in narrow halls and shared rooms. Privacy was gone. Comfort was rare. Fear came easily, but so did quiet courage. Humans talked, argued, laughed, and cried. They helped each other because there was no one else left to help. On a civilian ship near the back of the fleet, a young girl pressed her face to a small window. She watched the Galactica and felt safer seeing it there. She did not understand tactics or war. She only knew that as long as that ship flew, they were not alone. Commander Adams knew this too. He felt the weight of every pair of eyes looking toward his ship. Hope was fragile. If the Galactica fell, the fleet would break apart. Unknown to the humans, they were not as alone as they believed. Far beyond human sensors, hidden between folds of space, something watched. The alien observers had studied many species. They had seen worlds rise and fall. Civilizations burned out by war, pride, or fear. Most species followed patterns. When pressure increased, they broke in expected ways. The humans confused them. The observers had seen the silent attack. Their records showed clean results. Humanity should have collapsed. Their cities destroyed, their networks shattered, their leadership removed. By all known models, the species should be extinct or close to it. Yet here they were. A small fleet moved through space, slow but steady. No central world. No perfect plan. Just motion and survival. The alien records updated again and again. Human behavior did not settle into a single path. Some ships argued. Others cooperated. Some leaders failed and were replaced. Others adapted and grew stronger. The observers did not interfere. Not yet. They watched with cold interest. They should not still exist, one record noted. Yet they do, another replied. Back on the Galactica, Commander Adams left the bridge and walked the halls. He believed leaders should be seen, not hidden. When people saw him, they straightened. Some nodded. Some smiled weakly. Others looked away, ashamed of fear they could not hide. He stopped near a repair team working on a damaged power line. Sparks flew as tools moved by hand, not machines. The air smelled of metal and sweat. How long? He asked. An engineer wiped his face. We'll have it stable in 2 hours, sir. It won't be pretty, but it'll hold. That's good enough, Adams said. Thank you. The engineer nodded, surprised. Small words mattered now. Later, Adams returned to his quarters. They were simple. A bed. A desk. A wall screen showing star maps. He sat and stared at the lights ahead. Somewhere out there, there had to be a place safe from silence. He did not know where. He did not even know if such a place existed. Doubt crept in when he was alone. He wondered how long he could keep people believing. He wondered how many hard choices waited ahead. He wondered if history would remember them at all. Then the fleet alarm sounded. Not loud. Not urgent. Just a warning. Adams was on his feet at once. On the bridge, officers spoke quickly but calmly. Long-range sensors show strange readings, one said. Not silent. Not natural either. Adams leaned forward. Threat? Unknown, sir. It faded as soon as we focused on it. He watched the screen. Nothing showed. Space looked empty. Log it, he said. Increase watch. No sudden moves. The fleet continued on. Far away, the alien observers recorded the moment. Humans noticed the edge of the unknown and did not panic. They prepared, adjusted, and moved on. That was not expected. As the Galactica led the fleet deeper into the dark, the observers continued to watch. Their interest grew. Humanity was damaged, frightened, and weak, but still moving forward. And that simple fact unsettled beings who believed survival followed rules. The humans did not know they were being judged. They only knew they were still alive. For now, that was enough. The fleet moved on through empty space, following routes that had once been clear and safe. Now those paths felt wrong. Stars appeared where they should not be. Signals bent and faded. Time delays grew strange and uneven. At first, the humans thought it was damage. On the Galactica, reports came in one after another. Navigation errors. Communication drops. Ships drifting slightly off course even when engines were steady. Nothing deadly yet, but nothing normal either. Commander John Adams listened without speaking. He had learned that panic often came from rushing to name a threat too early. Slow the fleet, he said at last. No jumps until we understand this. In the flight bay, pilot Mark Allen checked his fighter again. He was young but already tired in a way that sleep could not fix. His ship was old, patched together from spare parts. It should not still be flying, yet it was. Control, Mark said over the channel. My NAV screen is flickering. Stars are shifting. You're not alone, came the reply. We see it too. Mark frowned and adjusted his manual controls. The computer data made less sense the more he trusted it. So he stopped trusting it. He looked out of the canopy instead. Space was wide and dark, but patterns still existed. Distances, angles, motion. He had learned to fly before he trusted machines fully. That training returned now. Control, he said again. If we follow the screen, we drift. If we follow visual alignment, we hold steady. There was a pause. That shouldn't work, someone said. But it does, Mark replied. I'm holding position. In the navigation room, Emily Stone stood over a table filled with star charts. Some were digital. Others were printed and old. She had asked for the paper maps herself. People had laughed at first. Now no one did. Emily studied the charts with sharp focus. She noticed small changes. Not random. Not damage. Something was pushing signals just enough to confuse automated systems. They're testing us, she said quietly. An officer looked up. Who? Emily did not answer at first. She pointed instead. Look here. And here. The distortions are gentle. Careful. Almost polite. Polite doesn't exist in space, the officer said. Emily shook her head. Someone wants to see how we respond. The idea spread quickly. Some dismissed it. Others agreed. Arguments broke out. Voices rose. Fear slipped into the cracks. Commander Adams entered the room and raised a hand. Silence followed, slow but complete. We don't need to agree on why, he said. We need to agree on what works. Emily stepped forward. Manual navigation. Shared data. No single system trusted alone. Mark's voice came over the channel. Pilots can help guide civilian ships visually. Slower but safer. Someone else added, we can rotate signal methods. If one fails, another carries the message. The room filled with ideas. Some clashed. Some overlapped. People interrupted each other. It was messy and loud. But it was alive. Adams watched carefully. No one waited for orders alone. They spoke, listened, argued, adjusted. This was not the clean structure of old fleets. This was something else. Do it, Adams said. All of it. We adapt. Orders went out. The fleet slowed further. Pilots flew closer to civilian ships, guiding them by light and position. Navigators cross-checked data by hand and eye. Engineers rerouted signals through paths no longer taught in manuals. Mistakes happened. One ship drifted too far and had to be pulled back. Another lost contact for minutes that felt like hours. Voices cracked under stress. Then the system stabilized. Not perfect, but enough. Far away, hidden beyond perception, the alien observers watched with growing interest. Their test had been simple. Disturb the paths. Bend signals. Apply pressure without direct harm. Most species panicked or froze. Others relied fully on automation and failed when it lied. Humans did neither. They argue, one record noted. Yes, another replied. But they do not stop. They lack unity, a third observed. Yet they cooperate. The data streams grew tangled. Human responses overlapped. No single pattern held for long. When one solution failed, another replaced it within moments. The observers adjusted the disturbance. Slightly stronger. Slightly wider. On the Galactica, alarms flickered again. Not loud. Not deadly. Just enough to be noticed. Emily caught the change at once. It's shifting. The distortion moved. Mark swore softly in his cockpit. They're learning. Then so are we, Emily said. She gathered a small group and broke them into pairs. Don't follow my map, she told them. Follow each other. Share what you see. Someone laughed nervously. That's not a plan. It is, she replied. Just not a neat one. The fleet bent and adjusted like a living thing. No perfect lines. No straight paths. But it stayed together. Commander Adams watched from the bridge. He felt pride rise, quiet but strong. These people were scared, tired, and hurt. Still they moved forward. On one transport ship, a signal officer patched an old radio into a new relay. On another, a farmer helped calculate drift angles using memory from moving cargo by hand. Skills once seen as small now mattered. Hours passed. Then the disturbances faded. Space returned to stillness. A cheer spread through the fleet, soft but real. People smiled. Some cried. Others simply sat and breathed. Mark landed his fighter and climbed out slowly. His legs shook. Emily leaned against a table, eyes closed, letting tension drain away. Commander Adams spoke to the fleet. We don't know what caused this. We don't know if it will happen again. But today we proved something. He paused. We are still here. Far beyond human reach, the alien observers updated their records. Human response unpredictable, one entry read. They do not collapse under confusion. They do not rely on a single truth. They adapt through conflict. The observers had expected fear. They had expected failure. Instead, they saw something difficult to measure. A species that argued, changed, and survived. Their data did not settle. Models failed to align. For the first time in a long while, the observers could not predict the next outcome. They continued to watch. And the humans, unaware of the eyes upon them, continued forward, together, imperfect and alive. Space grew thick and strange as the fleet moved forward. The stars ahead looked dim as if light itself was tired. Sensors showed rising gravity waves and drifting fields of broken rock. Old records marked the region as unsafe. No clear path crossed it. The fleet should have turned away. They did not know that something was pushing them. Hidden far beyond human sight, an alien probe followed the fleet. It was small, silent, and ancient. It did not attack. It did not speak. It bent space just enough to guide the humans toward danger. The observers wanted to see what would happen when escape became costly. On the Galactica, warning lights appeared across the bridge. Gravimetric instability ahead, an officer reported. Course corrections are fighting us. Commander John Adams studied the display. It feels like we're being nudged. No one disagreed. Can we turn back? He asked. A navigator shook her head. Engines respond, but space itself resists. We lose fuel faster when we try. Adams took a slow breath. Then we go through. Carefully. The first rocks hit a civilian ship near the center of the fleet. Not large impacts but many small ones. Hull plates cracked. Atmosphere leaked out in thin white streams. Emergency calls filled the channels. Engineer David Clark was already moving. He had grease on his hands and a habit of fixing things that should not work anymore. When alarms sounded, he did not freeze. He looked for what still functioned. Seal the leaks with pressure foam, he ordered. Don't wait for full patches. But that's temporary, someone said. Temporary is alive, David replied. Teams rushed to work. Foam filled cracks. Doors sealed. Oxygen levels dropped but held. The ship survived. Then another ship lost power. Medical officer Laura Hill was in the middle of a checkup when the lights went out. Gravity failed for a moment. People floated and screamed. She grabbed a rail and shouted for calm. Hold still, she said. Slow breaths. We're not done yet. When gravity returned, injured crew lay scattered. Cuts, broken bones, shock. Laura moved fast. She had trained for clean hospitals, not crowded halls with flickering lights. She used what she had. Tape became a brace. A cargo blanket became a stretcher. Pain medicine was shared carefully, saved for those who truly needed it. One patient grabbed her sleeve. We're going to die, aren't we? Laura met his eyes. Not today. That answer mattered more than medicine. The probe adjusted again. Space twisted harder. A transport ship at the edge of the fleet drifted too close to a gravity pocket. Engines screamed. The ship broke apart, slow and terrible. There was no time to save it. On the bridge, silence followed the loss. A dot vanished from the screen. Dozens of lives ended in a moment. Commander Adams closed his eyes once, then opened them. "Log the loss," he said softly. "Learn from it." Some officers looked at him in shock. "Sir?" one asked. "We honor them by surviving," Adams said. "Keep moving." David studied sensor data from the wreck. "The gravity pull spikes suddenly," he said. "But there's a pattern. Short windows where it eases." Emily Stone nodded. "Like breathing." "Then we time our movement to the breath," David said. It was not elegant. It was not safe. But it was something. The idea spread fast. Pilots adjusted thrust in bursts. Civilian captains followed shouted timing over open channels. Mistakes happened. Ships bumped. Equipment broke. But fewer ships were lost. Laura coordinated medical teams across the fleet. She taught others how to treat shock, how to stop bleeding, how to stay calm when screams filled the air. Knowledge moved faster than fear. On one ship, a mechanic saved a life using a trick Laura had shared minutes earlier. On another, an injured pilot survived because someone remembered to slow his breathing. The fleet adapted as a whole. Far away, the alien observers watched with growing confusion. "Losses recorded," one entry noted. "Yes," another replied. "But response speed increases." "They do not retreat," a third observed. "They refine." The probe pushed again, testing harder. Human reactions sharpened in return. Solutions became faster, simpler, shared without command. Pressure increased unity. Hours felt like days. Finally, the fleet reached the edge of the region. Space smoothed. Gravity relaxed. Stars returned to their proper places. The probe withdrew, its task complete. On the Galactica, people slumped in exhaustion. Some cried quietly. Others sat in silence. The cost had been real. Lives were gone. Ships damaged beyond repair. Yet the fleet was still there. David wiped his hands and leaned against a wall. "We shouldn't have made it," he muttered. Laura sat beside him. "But we did." Commander Adams addressed the fleet again. His voice carried weariness and strength. "We lost people today," he said. "We will remember them. But we also learned. What we know now will save lives tomorrow." Across the fleet, crews nodded. Lessons were written down, shared, remembered. Far beyond, the alien records updated once more. Human efficiency rises under stress. Prediction failure increasing. Pressure does not weaken them. For the observers, this was troubling. For the humans, it was simply survival. They moved on, scarred, wiser, and still choosing to live. The attack came without warning. One moment the fleet moved in quiet formation, engines low, crews tired but steady. The next moment, space flashed with red light. Silent ships jumped in around the fleet, fast and sharp, like knives thrown from the dark. Alarms screamed across the Galactica. Silent contacts all sides. Commander John Adams stood firm on the bridge. His voice cut through the noise. "Launch fighters. Protect the civilians. Do not chase." Vipers roared out of the flight bays. Pilots barely had time to breathe before weapons fire filled space. The Cylons moved in clean lines, firing with cold precision. They had studied human patterns before. They expected the same response again. They were wrong. Lieutenant Daniel Brooks led one of the outer squadrons. His fighter shook as a blast scraped its side. Warning lights blinked on and off. His squadron was spread thin, pulled away while covering slow civilian ships. "Brooks, your wing is hit," a voice shouted over the channel. "I know," Daniel replied, calm but tight. "Stay with me." Another explosion flared. One fighter spun away, engines dead. Daniel reacted without thinking. "Cut thrust. Drift with me. Match my spin." "That's insane," the pilot replied. "Do it," Daniel said. The damaged fighter followed his lead. Together they drifted through the chaos, letting momentum carry them instead of burning fuel. Silent fire passed just wide, missing targets that did not move as expected. On the Galactica, the battle plans began to fail. Cylons anticipated standard formations and timing. Human losses started to rise. Commander Adams clenched his jaw. "Change it," he said. "Now." "Sir?" an officer asked. "Break pattern. Let pilots choose." Orders went out. Loose commands replaced strict ones. Squadrons split and reformed on instinct. Some pilots drew fire. Others hid among civilian ships, using debris as cover. It was messy. It was dangerous. It worked. The Cylons hesitated even for a moment. That moment mattered. In deep space, the alien observers watched closely. Their interest sharpened. Human behavior had reached another point of collapse in many models. Instead, it bent again. The aliens made a choice. A small one. A quiet pulse spread through space. Invisible. Brief. It touched only Cylon sensors, blinding them for seconds. Not enough to save humanity. Enough to see what humans would do. Cylon formations wavered. Target locks broke. Confusion rippled through their ranks. Daniel felt it at once. They lost us, he said. Move. Now. His squadron was in bad shape. 2 fighters gone. 1 barely flying. His own ship bled power. Follow me, Daniel ordered. No heroes. He led them toward the fleet, not in a straight line but in sharp, changing arcs. He used wreckage and drifting fuel clouds as cover. When weapons failed, he used silence. When engines died, he used gravity. A Cylon ship chased them, fast and deadly. Daniel saw it coming. Split, he said. The remaining fighters broke apart. Daniel turned directly toward the enemy instead of away. The Cylon overshot, unable to adjust in time. Daniel cut engines and rolled past its blind side. He did not fire. He ran. On the Galactica, damage reports piled up. Fires burned on 2 decks. Medical teams moved fast. Laura Hill worked without pause, hands steady despite the noise and smoke. We need more stretchers, someone shouted. Then use doors, Laura replied. Anything flat moves a body. Nearby, David Clark rerouted power again, sweating as systems strained. She's holding, he muttered about the Galactica. Barely. Back in space, the Cylons regrouped. Their sensors flickered back to life. But the moment was gone. Human ships no longer behaved as expected. Commander Adams saw the shift. All units fall back behind the Galactica. Use her guns. The fleet tightened. The Galactica turned broadside, its heavy weapons firing in long, controlled bursts. Cylons took losses they had not planned for. One by one, Cylon ships pulled away. Silence followed, broken only by damaged engines and distant alarms. Daniel guided his broken squadron in. His fighter shook violently as he landed. When the canopy opened, his hands trembled. He did not notice until he tried to stand. A crew member caught him. You got them back, she said. Daniel looked behind him at the empty slots on the deck. Not all of them. Commander Adams addressed the fleet later, voice heavy but proud. We survived because we changed. Because you chose to think, not repeat. Far away, the alien observers updated their records again. Intervention minimal. Human survival independent of aid. They refused collapse even when aided only slightly. The observers felt something rare. Respect. The fleet moved on, wounded but alive. Humanity did not know it had been tested again. It only knew it had survived another night. And it would keep doing so no matter what watched from the dark. The fleet moved quietly through open space, leaving danger behind, one slow engine burn at a time. No alarms sounded now. No weapons fired. Only the low hum of ships holding together by effort and will. On the Galactica, repair crews worked in silence. Some damage would never be fixed. Some scars were now part of the ship. Like the people aboard, it carried its past forward. Commander John Adams stood on the bridge and watched the fleet icons drift across the screen. Fewer than before. Each missing mark was a wound that would not close. Still the line moved on. We're clear, an officer said softly. No pursuit. Adams nodded. Relief came, but it did not feel like joy. It felt like breath after drowning. Across the fleet, people rested where they could. Some slept in halls. Others sat with friends and spoke in low voices. Loss was shared. So was survival. Paul Turner stood alone in an observation corridor on the Galactica. He was not a pilot or an officer. He had been a teacher before the attack. Now he helped wherever he was needed. Today he simply watched the stars. They looked calm again. Distant. Uncaring. Paul rested his hand against the glass. Somewhere out there had to be a future. Not a promise. Just a chance. He did not know he was being watched no longer. Far beyond human space, the alien observers made their final entries. The fleet had passed every test placed before it. Not by strength alone. Not by perfect planning. But by change. By shared effort. By refusal to stop. This species does not stabilize, one record noted. They escalate adaptation under pressure, another replied. They should have failed, a third observed. Yes, came the answer. But they chose not to. The observers withdrew their probes. Space folded closed around their hidden paths. Records were sealed, locked into archives older than stars. One final mark was made. Humanity, rare survival pattern. Grows stronger under loss. Unpredictable by control models. Extinction unlikely. With that, the observers turned away. They did not fear humans. They did not favor them. But they understood something now. This species could not be guided easily. Back on the Galactica, Paul Turner continued to watch the stars. He thought of his students. He wondered if teaching still mattered when the world was gone. Then he remembered how people had learned anyway. How knowledge spread faster than fear. How mistakes became lessons. Teaching mattered. The fleet changed course slightly, following new charts drawn by tired hands and sharp minds. They did not know where they were going. They only knew they would go together. Commander Adams made his final log for the day. "We have no home," he recorded. "But we have each other. That will have to be enough." In the medical bays, Laura Hill slept sitting up, her hands wrapped in bandages. In the engine rooms, David Clark finally stopped moving and laughed once, quiet and tired. In the flight bays, Daniel Brooks stared at the empty spaces and promised himself he would keep flying. Humanity did not celebrate. It endured. The Galactica led the way forward, its light steady against the dark. No prophecy guided it. No destiny waited ahead. Only choice. And that choice, made again and again, carried them on.